Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to ITUTv podcast, man. We have another fantastic episode. It's the start of the year. We have just come out of Rise a few weeks ago, which has been a life-changing event for a lot of people. It's really impacted a lot of lives. People are starting their trading a little bit different. They're getting goals accomplished. They're hitting their markers on their weekly reports. Man, I wish I could show you all of what has been possible for a lot of people since the Rise event. But man, you got to be inside to get it. With that being said, man, a lot has changed economically. We've seen some crazy shifts in the market with gold, with silver. We were seeing indices dropping for a hot minute there before finally having some bounce back. We know the dollar is making a plummet where many may have anticipated it to rise. And is that even really a bad thing for us? So, for today's conversation, we're going to get with our economics coach. You already know who's in the building, Michael Franz, and we're going to have this conversation. What's
Yes,
going
sir.
on, Mike?
Another beautiful day, man. It's a beautiful Monday. First
Yes,
Monday of the
sir.
month. So a lot of stuff closed out over the past month. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a brand new monthly candle. This is
Yep.
the only time that you'll ever see a brand new monthly, weekly, daily, 4 hour, all at the same time.
Oh, it's fresh, right? Man, when markets like that, it's like up and down for a hot minute, guys. So you got to take your time going in this thing, okay? Let it build out.
Absolutely. And we on it's 4:30 now, 5:30 I think Central. So we're on Tuesday's trading day already here. So got a
Yes,
lot
sir.
going
Yes,
on
sir.
here. We saw a crazy recovery today, bro. Like real talk.
Man, indices bounce back hard. We know we've
Yeah.
got NFP still coming up this week, correct? On Friday. I don't think they got
Yeah, I believe
this
so.
time. Okay, cool. So yeah, let's dive straight into it, man. So let's start out. We know the hot take right now is metals, right? Everybody is gold, silver focused really heavily. What are we seeing going on with that? What's caused this major drop? And then is it margin changes, liquidity, positioning, or is this all fundamentally economically influenced?
It's a little bit of everything. So from the technical standpoint, we were in no man's land, right? For what, 2 months almost.
Mm,
Silver had taken off, gold had taken off, gold crossed. In fact, I think it was on the Rise Economics call that we talked about where I said uh, gold will probably hit 5K within the next month. Well, I didn't expect it to be like the next week, but it did. It hit 5K the next week. In fact, it was pushing towards 6 grand, right, over the rest of of January. So, like we had this crazy takeoff. So forget the fundamentals, forget the details, the news, and all this other stuff, and just say you're a technical trader only looking at the technicals. You reach no man's land where there's no other high in the past to compare to, right? So when you take into effect a brand new overall monthly high, you take into effect all the divergences on the smaller time frames. Like when I say smaller time frames, I'm talking about like the 4 hours, right? The 4 hour, the daily, like those are higher time frames for the most part. But compared to the monthly, there were divergences you could see off the monthly candles that were based off of those 4 hour and daily candles, right? All of them were avoided. So it was crazy. There's many gaps that are everywhere, whether they're fair value gaps or whether they're actual gaps in price that never were respected. I can't even begin to tell you how many times we sat here having a conversation saying, "Hey, gold's coming down this week," and it still just went up. In fact, there was one night Jackson and I were on London for a little bit, and I was like, "Yeah, it's looking like a sell, but we might want to just still buy." And from there, Jackson, you remember that night? It still just kept going up after that. So from the technical standpoint, what goes up must
oh,
come down. Do you remember that, Jackson? You there?
Yeah, I do. That was a frustrating day.
Yeah, it was definitely a frustrating day. Trust me, it was a frustrating day for me too. Um, it actually, from that point on, is when I closed out my futures broker and moving towards a different one at this point because I was like, you know what, the way these candles are looking, it was giving me sell vibes all the time. Like with every candle that was reaching a high, my futures broker, which was Apex at the time, using Tradeovate. So Apex, I want to say was the broker. Tradeovate was the system I was using to implement it into TradingView. I can't begin to tell you for me from what I'm used to seeing, those candlesticks were just weird the way that they were working. They were giving me sell vibes all the time, but every time you go to sell at the high, it still would just continue to push, right? So then you think, okay, what goes up must come down. We reach new highs. It needs to make another higher low if it's still going up. At some point, there needs to be a pullback. Then we had the margins. Now you got the news and the fundamentals come in, because you can say all day, hey, this needed to come down, but there needs to be a reason why outside of, oh, it just created a new high. Because technically it created a new high back in November, right? October, November. And from there on, it just kept going and going and going. So the high never stopped. That was the thing. When you look at the monthly, it's all bull candles the whole time. So if you want to know why, then you look to the fundamentals. And we talked about this. It was funny because the last podcast episode we did, I had warned people like, hey, if you're going to trade gold, drop your lot size or drop your contracts because margins changed. Well, they changed. We saw it happen, but we didn't see the effect of what the margin changes did until the end of the month, which makes 100% sense, right? So people taking the precaution instead of continue going with some of their trades, a lot of people just sold off. So specifically, even if you Google gold and silver rule changes, right? Or bearish drop rule changes, right? You can put that in there. And the first thing that pops up is an AI explanation actually giving credit to the margin changes, which makes sense because monthly candle closed, right? It was closing on that Friday. And then all of a sudden, okay, people want to get out before the weekend, right? Because you can't close anything on the weekend. You can't do anything on the weekend, period. So everybody started seeing this on that after the rates. Now, you can also blame the rate portion as well. That's where the indices come into play, right? The whole economic system is just bearish right now, completely, in my opinion. We saw a good recovery on indices, but still without rates going down and with the skepticism, I technically would probably like to see another big drop on indices, even after today's recovery. I wanted it to drop another 800 points before the recovery today, but because of the Fed change, Trump actually, I think he announced his actual replacement of Powell. Mm-hmm. It gave a lot of hope because it's one of his people, and if it's one of his people, they got the connection. And Trump's goal is to get interest rates back down to like 1%, Fed interest rates, 1 to 2%. So that gives a lot of reason for people to go in and actually have great sentiment towards the stock market itself.
Most traders believe their problem is their strategy. They think the next setup, the next indicator, the next system will fix everything. But the truth is, most traders don't fail because they lack knowledge. They fail because they can't execute under pressure. The market doesn't expose your strategy. It exposes you. Every hesitation, every impulse, every time you override your plan. That's not a technical issue. That's the trader within. Your identity under pressure decides your results. At Independent Trading University, we don't just teach charts. We train the trader who shows up when it matters. Where discipline replaces emotion, structure replaces impulse, execution replaces hope. This is the trader within. If you're ready to stop fighting yourself and start executing like a professional, this is where it begins.
Hey everybody, Steve Hartfield here. I'm a current ITU student, but been with them for about 1.5 years now, and we just came out of our ITU Rise event. And just wanted to kind of give a quick review on how Coach Daniel has helped me kind of get some more clarity with the whole system that I do for my trading and my mindset that I go into. So when Daniel came and talked to us about how to create boundaries, how to change your identity and how you see yourself when it comes to money, and we talk about the real idea of what patience is. And, these are the key components that helped me kind of find out who I was as a trader and kind of give me some more clarity on what I'm really involved in and not really chase the money, really chase the technique and the process that you're going through. So then you can figure out, when the money gets larger, it's not an intimidation thing. You know how to control your mind, you know how to control your body, how to create a workflow through your sessions and your trading sessions throughout the week. So, I'd like to thank Daniel for what he's done for us and ITU Rise and the students from them. I think this was a big breakthrough for me personally, and I hope that, we can be able to see him again and so we can make a bigger breakthrough for, more students to share. Thank you.
Hi guys, Leroy from ITU here, ITU Rise event. So I'm here doing a review for Coach Daniel, and it's based about the mindset, the coaching that he did during those days where we had the morning sessions. The way he does things is that when you have certain things that you want to know about yourself, or you have certain problems, in that mindset area, he'll take his time to break down and ask you a lot of questions. So he really takes time. So you see that he does his job with passion and with love. It's like you really need to listen to him because he knows his stuff from the top to the bottom down. Listen to him, make notes, and you won't be disappointed. If you're still struggling and having problems, you can ask him anything and he will break down things for he brings clarity to you with what you're struggling with, and he comes with solutions, and then it's for you to take what you want to do with it if you want to do it. But if you take this guy and took him, if you have other problems related, if it's even not trading wise, he will advise you. He does his job with passion and with love, and it's his man, Daniel, 100% man. Love it. Keep on doing your thing, and thanks for those days that we had in the Rise event, and I hope that all the other students that come, that they will be blessed with the mindset sessions and the clarity you bring with the whole package included when they, everything you do. Love up. Thank you, man.
What's up, y'all? My name is DeAndre Jackson. I'm a student of Independent Trading University. I've been for a while now. At the beginning of my journey with ITU, I was definitely egotistical, prideful, operated with a lot of traumas, created this vicious boom and bust cycle for myself where I was just surviving instead of thriving the way that I should have been. I also had the privilege of attending the ITU Rise event that just ended a few days ago, and my favorite part was speaking with Coach Daniel about mindset. He actually helped me to kickstart the process of eliminating the results-driven belief system that I had to separate the man from the outcome. At the end of the day, I am a man with a purpose and a gift to give to this earth. My results and outcomes only speak about my processes and my habits. He also helped me to keep a bird's eye view, to understand that also what he was teaching me in regards to the event itself not only applied for trading, but to every aspect of my life as a husband, father, son, friend, trader, and any other avenue in which I may pursue. This isn't a one and done thing. Every month, every year is going to call for a new version of me. I definitely look forward to having Coach Daniel on this walk with me on this journey of my life. If you are here watching this video and you are thinking about it, you have nothing to lose. In the end, you will leave with the momentum needed to continue to grow forward and to the person that you need to be. Have a blessed day.
Indices specifically, right? We saw that great recovery gearing towards the choice for the Fed replacement. But when you kind of take it all into effect, like I said, from the technical standpoint, specifically on metals that reached new highs needed to come down. Margins changed. People closed out a lot of trades and had a sell-off. So that's why we saw that massive, massive drop. I'm talking like what? It was almost like $1,000 an ounce that gold dropped.
Oh, huge. Huge. We approached almost 4,500, 4,000, somewhere in there.
Right.
So,
and it was close to 5,500 at one point.
Yeah.
Right. So silver, of course, you're not going to see as big of a drop on silver in price, but it is the same thing, right? A $50 drop on silver is like $1,000 drop on gold, right? It equates either way, but we see just everything kind of pulling back, etc. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is when traders, when you're looking at the market, has gold on a monthly ever been bearish?
Not in a long time. Not even when I was reviewed the monthly on my own. I don't think I've seen it
Never.
in a very long time.
Has the stock market ever been bearish on the monthly time frame? No. So this right here is just a pullback. This is where people panic, right? This is where people panic that don't sit in the space, that study the charts, that study the economics. This is where they panic and they're like, oh my gosh, just, you know, I'm selling all my product. I'm selling all my gold. I'm selling all my silver, right? Before it goes down any further because silver is going to be worthless. No. This is where you add more to your portfolio.
Well, we saw this in 2020. I love that you brought this up with this understanding pullbacks, understanding that look at the history of your economics, look at the history of your charts to see, am I in a market that falls heavy like JPY? You know, JPY has been falling heavy a very long time. So for me to come in and see yen, you know, go bullish at any moment like that, even like we've seen with silver and gold drop, it's like, oh, this is another opportunity to sell more yen off. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the way you kind of got to look at it. Like 2020 blows in the water. Now we're in the blood of the waters of metals.
Right, exactly. And it's not going to last long. When you look at trends, it might last a month. It might last a couple of weeks. I mean, for the way that this is going, it's not going to last but maybe a week or so, if that. It might even start turning bullish at the end of this week, if not next. You know what I'm saying? So what's going to help it turn bullish also is the dollar coming back down. The dollar is on a pullback up. So we're gonna allude to this here in a second when we talk about correlation, right? When we talk about, like, just a quick refresher on the psychology behind it, right? The psychology behind correlation and the way to kind of think as a trader to investor to just your average, normal, everyday individual that doesn't pay attention to these things, right? The dollar is going up. Technically, the correlation for gold is that it will go down. Perfect example. Like, you can see that right now, even when you look at the pairs, you take the primary pair and you take the secondary pair, which is an influencing currency, right? So XAU USD, you're talking about the price of gold, and the influence of it comes from USD. USD is supposed to come down. That means gold is supposed to go up. But because gold works off of bonds and whatnot, that's the other thing, is that bonds, if you look at the 10-year bonds and whatnot, people are selling, like, they're supposed to be selling off soon. I was actually just reading this article. If they haven't sold off already, I haven't necessarily looked at it, but it's kind of I'm looking at the hour right now, and it's been the 10-year. It's been kind of in consolidation since January 16th. But we did see a little bit of a drop, kind of like I said, in an overall consolidation on the 1 hour. But we might see, because bond yields are going to drop due to the dollar dropping, that could actually cause gold and the dollar to work at certain times in the same way, right? So outside of that, your typical expectation would be, if the dollar is going down, then gold should go up. Don't live and die by that rule, but just keep it in mind that that's the way it should be, right? Use that as something I would say is like a secondary, or even maybe like at the bottom of your confirmation list, just because of how often they can work together. Since gold is one of those tricky ones. But with that being said, you know, as the dollar starts dropping, as we've seen over the past couple of months, they've worked as a opposing correlation very, very well. That hasn't worked like that in a long time. So for the time being, you could probably use that. Might be this market cycle right now, is that gold works as it should with the US dollar. And as the dollar goes up, gold drops, correlating with other news topics as well, such as the Fed change or the margin change, stuff like that, right? Because now that the Fed changed, my position, what that kind of tells me, looking out from the outside looking in, is with the Fed change and we see stocks taking off. We saw US 30 take off and have a recovery, right? People may have sold off their gold due to the margins and turned around and took that profit and put it somewhere else. Right? Because now the sentiment is rates are expected to possibly it's not going to be tomorrow. I promise you it's not going to be tomorrow. Powell's still in control, I think, until May.
Okay.
But the replacement after that, within the next 2 years, 2.5 years after that, Trump is going to do whatever he can to get the interest rates back down to 1 to 2% as far as the Fed rates go.
I have something truly special to share with you today. Have you ever dreamt of financial success and didn't know where to start? Look no further than Independent Trading University. At ITU, we offer a diverse range of courses, from Forex basics to advanced technicals, along with comprehensive fundamentals education, mindset coaching, health and wellness guidance, plus stock and crypto trading strategies. That's right. Everything you need for a well-rounded trading journey, all in one place. Our mission is clear, helping you make extra income by learning the art of trading. Join us today at solo.to/independent trading guru and take advantage of an exclusive pre-sale. $50 for undergrad students looking to trade part-time, and just $75 for career traders ready to dive in full-time. With ITU, you'll master the art of making consistent income from the markets. This is your chance to start building a brighter financial future. Are you ready to transform your trading game and take control of your financial future? Look no further than Independent Trading University, your one-stop destination for comprehensive Forex education and so much more. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced trader, we've got you covered. We believe in a holistic approach to trading success. Gain a deep understanding of market fundamentals, master your mindset, and prioritize your well-being. We're here to support your growth every step of the way. And let's not forget about stocks and crypto. Discover exciting opportunities and learn strategies to make extra income. The best part? We're running a limited time pre-sale for new students. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to gain the skills, knowledge, and support you need to succeed. Ready to make connections with your financial future? Visit our website at solo.to/independent trading guru to secure your spot in our pre-sale today. Independent Trading University, where trading dreams become reality. It's time to start your journey to financial freedom. Don't wait. Visit solo.to/independent trading guru now.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if you're out there and you're listening, and from my understanding, I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. So we're looking at investors shifting, expected positivity in the marketplace, which is good for the economy. And then from a metals perspective, we're just using our investment money from our metals to reinvest into the marketplace because we do see further upside, for the economy.
Oh, absolutely. I would tell you right now, gold is probably going to hit 6K by the end of the year.
Agreed.
And that's being conservative. In all honesty, that's being conservative. It might hit 6K by summer.
Yeah.
As fast as it dropped, as fast as it went up, it dropped. And as fast as it dropped, it could go up again. Right? I mean, those were a lot of bear candles that were going on. When you break down the weekly into the daily and then the daily into the hour time frames, that was a lot of what I use for my bull candles is blue. I use my bear candles as red, mainly because when you're on MT4, when you're in profit and your account is bullish, what color are the numbers? Blue. Drawdown or you're losing a trade, it's red. So I kind of use that just to kind of go with it. So there's a lot of red candles that happened over the past 4 days only. 4 days, 3-4 days. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Now we were going over an overview and I was establishing, man, the US 30 looks like it's really struggling to break this support level. So we might not see any lower, going into this week. And as we can see, things have rose up. Now I do want to touch base when you were talking about pullbacks, and I want to get traders understanding, and maybe some people out there have questions around understanding how do we differentiate from a healthy pullback versus a structural just trend shift in metals.
So what I accredit, like, are you talking about like actual trend reversals compared to just right? Okay. Yeah. So you got to consider the high time frame specifically, right? And what I would technically use would be like the daily into the weekly with the 4 hour as an indication. The only reason I say that is because anything that's lower, like the 1 hour, the 30-minute, the 15-minute, right? Those are temporary candles. They make up the long-term candles. So you're not going to get a lot of information off of the monthly, especially if you have to wait a full month to see a trend break. You don't want to do that because you might miss out on a great entry. So when you look at the patterns and you see the supports being broken, or if you're looking for a bullish reversal, you're going to see the upside trends, like the resistance being broken. In that case, use those strong, like those time frames are, like, from my opinion, the 4 hour to the daily to the weekly. Maybe not even the weekly, because you got to wait. The longer you have to wait, the more you're going to miss out on. So I would kind of go from the 4 hour to the daily and look at my supports. And when those supports are broken, that's when you start looking for the retest and then your entry, right? So once they're broken, that's a different story, because you look to the left and see where those next lows are and how far either the free fall is, or whether those higher lows that were previously produced, those are what need to be probably retested as supports, right? So if they're being retested as support, you either look for the rejection, you look for the break, and kind of go from there. But your stronger time frames, your 4 hour and your daily, specifically for what we trade here, those are going to be your most important, because those smaller time frames are literally just temporary.
Right. They are short-term movements, guys, and you got to have that macro perspective in place, because 9 times out of 10 they're setting up for those macro moves in the smaller time frames.
Absolutely. Those stronger time frames, those higher time frames, carry a stronger support and resistance, because if, let's say we're looking at the 4 hour and we're comparing it to the 15-minute. If you're looking at the 4 hour and it holds a closed candle at a support, but yet you see the 15-minute break it, guess what it is on the 4 hour? A wick. That's all it is, right? So when you're looking at those higher time frames and those closures, if it rejects, those are the stronger ones, because at that point, if you see something dropping down and you're looking for the break and you're on the 15-minute, look to that left, see where that 15-minute resistance would be that needs to be retested, put in a buy, and then watch it come right back up if we're on a bullish trend, right? Now, if it breaks and it closes below the support on the 4 hour, then you're going to let it continue coming down, finishing the bear move, and then look for that slight pullback as a lower high. That's when you enter in for the sell. We've always gone by the rule: if there's a break and there's no retest, you don't trade it. So you enter in for the retest rather than the break, because you can always get caught into a bad move where, if you're entering off of those lower time frames, it just becomes a wick on the higher. You know what I mean? So, those higher time frames are very, very important because of how long they take to be held or broken. So support being rejected, that means people are holding this and just looking for more entries for the buy up, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it breaks, like I said, if it breaks and closes, people are looking for this to finish, and then you're going to start seeing a little bit of a pullback, and then you'll start seeing the drop after that again. Now, I don't think any of those high time frames yet have really been broken. I think like the trends that we're looking for that have been broken are mainly on like the 1 hour or whatever it may be. So that's why I say, like, I'm still bullish on gold. I'm completely bullish on gold and silver.
I agree with you. Our next question here: how should traders adjust expectations during periods when markets are more driven by policy and funding mechanics than technical? So, in a sense, and from the news, right? We know news releases come out. We know fundamental influences come in. Some people may have been there Friday and been buyers, and then we're like, exiting because sells were coming in, but they didn't pivot into the sells. Should I, as a trader, take part, try to, this fundamental change is coming, I got to get in for the sell, before I miss out? Or is it smarter to just lay in the cut, wait your turn, and then come in when things make more sense?
I think that depends on whether you're a technical or fundamental trader itself, right? So this is where you have to determine what you actually trade and how you execute. So if you're a fundamental trader, you're going to be in some of these moves fairly temporarily, right? Specifically, like with rates. Rates, what do we say? Like we were looking for either a decrease in rates or no change at all, right? And there was no change the other day. So yes, if you're a fundamental trader trading that move, you would have bought US 30. But what happened after that? An 800-point drop, right? So if you're a fundamental trader, you literally trade that topic. You're in for maybe an hour, I'm not going to say scalping because sometimes these fundamental announcements can actually last within the hour, right? So you could be losing out. If you're going to buy on a rate change, give it at least 15 minutes to half an hour, if not the hour, right? Look for, you're going to use the candles to determine how high it needs to go. And then, get out, at least get out. Don't look to turn around and say, oh, well, I'm going to hold this all the way up till it breaks a new high off of the news, because it's not going to do that. There's other things that happen. And with the rate changes, you're going to also have the details at the end explaining what's going on. And right when we saw that happen, we saw the start of the 800-point drop, right? So if you're a technical trader, you would wait till the news finishes, and then you would get in for the technical, which was the drop, right? So that the first thing to do is determine what type of trader you are. Then determining off of what type or what time frame you want to trade off of. If it's news, you're going to use short-term time frames. If it is a technical trader, you're going to use higher time frames for the most part for your goals of SLs and TPs. So that my first thing is sit back, understand what drives you as a trader and what gets you going successfully. I'm a fundamental trader, but I also like to trade the technicals because I intermix them, right, every now and then, because I like to look for some of those moves. I'm going to be the first one to tell you that sometimes that might not be a great idea, right? But I'm in the position where I've been in the news for so long, and I've done the technical side as well, that you can kind of get to the point where you can intermingle them, right? Am I higher risk? Absolutely. I've probably lost. If you take, in fact, let me put it this way, Zay, are you a technical trader or fundamental trader?
Technical.
Absolutely. I would say that 100%. The news helps you understand the economics and the economy, but you go strictly off of candlesticks for the most part, 9 out of 10 times, right?
Price action is on. Yep.
Right. And so for me, being that I do both, I've lost more trades than you have. Put it that way. And the way I see that, and we've had conversations offline, right? Not saying that everything isn't successful for me, but my risk is higher because I'm taking both of those into effect at the same time. So do I need to adjust that? Probably. That's just me reflecting on myself, right? In fact, you want to talk about transparency. It's 4:58 p.m. Arizona time, and that's the first time ever. Zay, have you ever heard me admit that right now?
No, face value.
Transparency than a motherfucker right there. Pardon my French. Transparency. But what I do shouldn't dictate what you do, right? That should not have any bearing, because it's you against the charts, not you against me in the charts. It's you against the charts. So my suggestion to anybody else just going through the experience, if you don't want to go through the trials and tribulations I've gone through, then don't try to do both. Pick and choose which one you want to do. Pick and choose, right?
I would recommend, though, even from a technical aspect, please be aware of fundamental influence, because you could be in a technical trade that's approaching a news, event, or you could be coming out of a news event, and knowing how to manage yourself on either side is still necessary. Like, economics still plays a role in my trading.
Oh yeah. The information doesn't change. It's the execution that's important, right? Yeah. So as a technical trader using the influence of news, you're either going to wait or you're going to increase your stop loss for a bigger move, right? With probably a lower lot size. If you're taking your correct risk, you're going to give yourself more room to move, more wiggle room, rather than grab a liquidity wick, get taken out on a SL for it just to go your way, right? So utilizing the news is going to help to give you that expectation to either wait or increase your stop loss with a lower lot size or lower contract value, than to sit there and do both at the same exact time, where you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. You know what I'm saying? So there is a little bit of a difference. Understanding the economics helps a lot, because you can then plan for what your technical is going to do.
That's so key, man. That is so key. Still using, whether it's news on TradingView, Forex Factory, or whatever, having the foresight helps tremendously. Knowing gold and silver in the situation they're in right now and timing. All right, probably about midweek, I should start looking for longs once we settle in to these first couple of days. That's something that I can mentally grasp, knowing, all right, USD is looking heavy on Wednesday, or is there a lot of dollar news on Thursday? I know that's when a lot of movement is going to happen. So I can keep myself out the market the first 2, 3 days of the week sometimes and just monitor until I'm ready to enter, which could be one of those days, right? Because I know news is coming in. So it's important to just be aware of that.
There is a caveat I want people to understand with this, though. And this just goes with the fundamentals of the news, period. When you start diving into that to understand, you start seeing different things, right? Where when you get to a point to where you start understanding what's on the news and why it's driving or what's going on, right? Which I think this might be a safe space to call some things out. We'll talk about this as some examples here in a second. But it drives people to make certain moves. If you, all right, how am I going to put this? If you base your moves on emotion, or whether you enter or exit based on emotion, you're no better than somebody that's completely uneducated in this realm, right? The reason I say that is because if you can be driven by emotion in trading, you're going to lose 99% of the time. You might catch a good move here and there, but if your emotions drive you, like, so if you're watching CNN and they say something, which, let's be honest, CNN is a liberal outlet. You see something that goes against a conservative bill or a conservative action, right? You're going to then apply that to your trading value, and guess what? You could be 100% wrong. And it happens all the time. The news is there to direct your emotion. I believe Daniel's the one. He probably said this in other different calls. But television, when you watch television, is literally, think of the word, tell-a-vision. And then the vision they want you to see is their vision. And those, to me, for lack of a better word in trading, those are the suckers.
Bro, preach.
Those are the suckers, right? So unfortunately, you're gonna find a change in yourself. And it's funny because I'm actually experiencing this right now. Not to be too TMI, but within my own household, right? There's a little bit of division of a lot of things that are going on right now, right? But I see things from a different perspective than what others may in my home. That's the goal of what this happens. So I can't let that happen. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. Because I have to be the bigger person in the sense and be like, look, okay, my emotions are in check because of these charts. Yeah. Are there things that I don't like? Are there things that I don't agree with? Are there things that are happening in these streets that are unfortunate? Absolutely. Absolutely. But at the same time, I have to see the forest through the trees and see the bigger picture of it all. Okay. Yeah. So
we don't have a choice. We honestly don't have a choice. And first, I mean, there's so many great points Mike touched on. So for an example, just looking at how the news is pushing things about the dollar, right? Dollar's falling, the dollar's dropping. They're making it a panic and negative scenario. But from a trader's perspective, we know dollar drop, good for the economy, good for a lot of other currency, good for trade, good for everything going on globally. That misunderstanding can cause people who just don't know this information to think dollar drop is bad for us. DXY going down is not good for us. And then they're going to start complaining and negative. And now you have these nuances going on throughout the marketplace. But this is how they keep you as a consumer. This is how they keep you in the position that you're in from a mindset and not to know to take advantage of this opportunity that's ahead of us right now. So if I can make you think the dollar is bad, you as a small investor or someone at home on the couch, you're not going to go put your money out there. You're going to think, oh no, this is bad, right? I don't need to be putting my money in the markets and stuff like that. While these cash cows are coming out off of gold and silver and flooding the marketplace, and they're going to make another few million and billion going into the future. So it's important to just be aware and check yourself at the door of like, this news could be really impacting my decisions. And then I love Mike bringing up in the household, right? We as traders we've got to be in check. Like the goal is to, get to the bag, right? We're trying to put ourselves, our families in the right position on a week to week, day to day basis, and making sure we're consistent in our journey and our methodologies as traders. Now, if that's the case, then those things that we might be separate on in the way of thinking in the household, yeah, that might be a problem. But are you in a situation to bank on it? Me and one of our students, Chris, were having a conversation about that app where you can basically trade what's going on economically, sports, whatever, Kojibi. Yeah. So, okay, yeah. So that alone is a decision where it's like, yeah, this stuff is going on, but can we capitalize now? And then when we have more and we can actually help influence this arena, right? What's the point of sitting here complaining about, oh, I'm mad about ICE, I'm mad about this, I'm mad about that, but you're not even in a position to do anything financially that really help the cause, really help make a difference. So why not, unfortunately, I'm going to have to take advantage of the situation now to put myself in a position to be able to do something different on the back end, right? That's what you kind of got to be thinking about. Yes, I understand this is unfortunate, this has happened in this way, but guess what? We can complain all day, or we can put ourselves in a position to do something about it, right? Because it's not going to stop. 2020, people was complaining about stuff, right? Before that, people was complaining about how things are handled, from
there's always
borders, immigrants, anything, right? It's been a thing for years, but a lot of people that are complaining can't even do anything anyway. So let's focus in on how we can definitely do something about this once we take care of ourselves,
Right. The part of what I want people to understand is that you're going to learn stuff within yourself that other people may not like or appreciate, right? But you're going to have to decide that for yourself. And this is where it comes into play of, okay, I mean, and this is something that you can actually ask yourself before getting into trading, right? And I think this is a valid question, am I an emotional individual, or can I keep those in check? The reason I say that is because if you're an emotional individual and cannot keep that in check, I will tell you right now, do not trade. Do not even learn this. Do not, right? But, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can train yourself to get to the position where you can keep them in check, keep your emotions in check, and just understand that there's a lot of things going on here that are distractions, then guess what? Like, you can actually probably succeed in this realm. But this is why majority of traders do not succeed, is they let their emotions get into play, right?
Yeah.
So instead of putting that investment ahead of time, that's why I say ask yourself before you even start trading, ask yourself, what type of person am I, right? And at that point, you can then take the next step, right? Some people get into this like, oh, I saw Zay make $4,000. I could do the same thing. Nope. You can't do the same thing. You can do worse, you can do better, or you can do similar, but that's on you. He's not trading for you at all. So you cannot do the exact same thing Zay can do. He can teach you what to look at. I can teach you what to look at, but it's still going to be up to you. If you still have that emotional bone in your body, then guess what? It's going to be very difficult. So when we talk about the dollar going down, right? The dollar going down, you have a lot of liberals out here that are against this administration. And right now you have a lot of people in general against this administration for things that are going on. Why do we see, as traders, the dollar going down as a good thing compared to people feeling like the economy is not good? Why is that? What's the difference? Do you have any ideas there?
I'm going to say the understanding of not just confluence, correlations. We understand correlations. We understand what happens in the macro when the dollar goes down. We understand other currencies inflate. We understand the market props up, right? We understand that.
Great point. And it's along the lines of what I was going to get into, because what causes those correlations to move that way? It's how you read the US dollar, right? People will say the dollar getting weaker, my dollar isn't worth as much. Okay, you can feel that all day. What do I see when the dollar comes down? What do you think Jackson, let me ask you this, because you were in Rise. We talked about DXY. Why do you think I'm okay with the dollar going down?
Because we need to reset.
Not just reset, but how do we read the dollar? 2 words. When it goes down, what is that? Higher supply.
Our supply and demand.
Right, exactly. So when the dollar comes down, to me, that's higher supply. Higher supply means more money in these streets, more money in your pocket. Higher demand means that there's less in these streets, less in these pockets, right? If I've got more money in my pocket that I can spend and pay my bills with, how is that bad? But unless you understand that side of it, you're not going to understand why it's not a bad thing, right? And this is for everybody that's listening or watching this afterwards. If you look at the DXY from a different lens, or the US dollar, right? If you look at that from a different lens than what is on the forefront, what is in the news, this, that, and the other, you can actually apply that a little bit differently. Where I say right now, I feel like our economy is getting better, right? Why do I feel like our economy is getting better? Not only are prices for things coming down, and we gave this example through Rise on the call, as of January of 2025, during the inauguration, within the first 2-3 weeks, what did every liberal come out and say? Oh, Donald Trump promised lower gas prices, lower food prices, right? Lower egg prices, and they haven't happened yet. They wanted it to happen overnight. You can't happen overnight if you continue to put obstacles in the way. And that's the whole thing that's going on, right? When you talk from a political standpoint, you can see obstacle after obstacle after obstacle being thrown in the way, which is going to stop progress. Once those things get defeated and conquered, once those obstacles get defeated, look what happens. Eggs are down to regular price. Gas, there was a gas station out here in Arizona that was selling gas at $1.80 a gallon. $1.80. But guess what people are going to look towards that as, right? They're going to sit there and complain about what we did with Venezuela. It was inhumane, etc., right? That's the emotional driver. But guess what that oil does for us now that we can control it? That gives us higher supply. When higher supply happens, price comes down. People got what they wanted. People got everything they wanted. They wanted lower eggs. Food is starting to come down, slowly but surely, but food is starting to come down. And gas is coming down, right? All those things are being more affordable. The only thing that's not affordable right now, Zay, can you tell me what's the only thing that's unaffordable right now?
Only thing unaffordable.
You're sitting in it right now.
Housing?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Housing is still unaffordable. Now, how do we make that affordable?
Oh, hey traders. This is a quick reminder. The clock is ticking and this is the last 30 days to lock in on our current rates. If you've been on the fence, now's the time to really jump in. Here's the deal. For the next 30 days, you can enroll in Independent Trading University at the current price of $45 a month for undergrad traders and $55 a month for career traders. And we've held this price point for 3 years to give every individual the opportunity to start their trading journey for the cheapest possible price point out there. So that's right. If you head over to myITU.org and secure your spot, you'll be able to lock in at the current prices. Now here's the best part of the situation. If you're already with us, you're locked in at the current rate as long as you remain a student. That's our commitment to you. So if you want to start learning and earning with us at ITU, don't miss this final opportunity to lock in the best rate. Now we've had a phenomenal year. Many have finally crossed over that milestone of getting their funded accounts. So this is prime time for you to get locked in before the holidays, and let's make sure this happens for you. I'll see you guys on the other side.
Good question. I don't know unless you bring interest rates down. but you also have to bring home values down themselves. And when people are desperate to get in a home, they're going to pay whatever they can and take whatever interest rate they can. And, you know, people are up a creek without a paddle right now because they've taken these bad deals over the past 3-4 years, right? So with the interest rates not coming down in January, that can affect the housing market continuously right now, where it's only getting worse and worse. And when I say worse and worse, I'm talking the thread that it's hanging on is so thin. I personally, I can't wait. I've been saying this for 5 years because it was during COVID when we saw everything. Yeah. We saw the huge boom. And think of this in the market side, right? Think of when you're looking at a chart for the past couple years, we've seen a bullish move on housing. Where's the pullback? We need the pullback on that, right? Housing will never, I'm not going to say housing will never be bearish because we had the Great Depression 100 years ago. But it was still temporary. Granted, it lasted, 9-10 years total from start to finish. And World War II resolved that. But that's what we can look forward to. History repeats itself, right? I would say that right now, we're not necessarily looking for a war. I mean, unless somebody wants to be emotional about some shit, right? Whether it's the oil situation or whatever it may be, or just these tariffs, right? Which is another thing, these tariffs coming into the country. It's reported, like when you look at it from a financial perspective, the tariffs, people are paying for the tariffs are own U.S. citizens, but that's because some of these businesses aren't up and running here on this land yet, right? So when they have the supply being built and created on this land, opening up jobs, this, that, and the other, it's going to take time for that. It's not happening overnight. So yes, the tariffs are a little bit difficult because all it did is cause some prices to go up over the past year. People are paying that, right? But at the same time, there are some things that are still coming down. So it's almost like pick your poison. Do you want to continue to make this progress, or do you want to continue to complain about these things and accept these other ones? Not everything is going to be perfect. There's always a working process to this. But at the same time, is the economy improving? In my opinion, it absolutely is. We're putting things in place that we haven't had in a long time or ever, which is actually making people responsible for their stuff rather than putting it all on us. We're also seeing a few things, not just regards to tariffs, but also a lot of these like SNAP benefits, stuff like that, government spending in general. We haven't had those things in check for 50 years.
Yeah.
But that's all that's going on right now. Like Jackson said exactly what it is right now. It's a reset time. Unfortunately, to undo X amount of time, like you can even go back to 2013, 2012, right? During Obama's terms, right? Obama ruined healthcare with the Affordable Care Act. It absolutely ruined the healthcare situation. It was supposed to help, but it's not doing anything but hurting. And they're seeing that now. But guess what? Try and undo something from 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's going to take longer than 12 months, right? The situation has been so convoluted, and there's been so many ways to get around it and not address it the way it needs to. And anybody who had been in office after, whether it be Trump or whether it be Biden, the attempts, whether they wanted to or not, I believe one wanted to, he didn't do it right, and that was Trump. And I believe Biden didn't care one way or the other, which is why they turned around and put these subsidies involved, right? You can't correct something with a Band-Aid. I mean, a small cut you can, but when you have a gash, no, you need stitches. You might need surgery. You might need this, that, and the other. A Band-Aid just isn't going to do it. It's bleeding. And that's what this whole situation is, right? We're in a spot of the economy where we're trying to stop the bleeding, but there are obstacles being put in place left and right. So kind of circling back with everything, if you can watch the news and actually become emotional about it, which is majority of everybody, you got a problem, right? And we see everything is emotionally driven.
For sure. There's no room for it, guys. It's especially in current times that we're looking at a great thing that we made the connection with the same time as metals going on with silver and gold. They released the Epstein files.
The Epstein files have nothing to do with this.
The distraction.
That's coincidence. That's a distraction.
Yep.
That's the distraction. I'll tell you the Epstein files are a distraction. I'll tell you Minnesota is a distraction. I look, whoever watches this, you might not like me after this, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put this out there so you can see what it's like from a fundamental perspective when you understand it. Is it unfortunate that there's 2 people that have been killed? It's absolutely unfortunate. I don't think they deserved to die. I don't Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Right. And we're talking about a massive split in individuals and how they feel.
And the distraction during this time.
Right. So I feel that, in all honesty, those were 2 FAFOs. Completely. So by having 2 FAFOs, this is the result. People may turn around and say, well, you're heartless. Am I, though? Because it's just holding somebody accountable. Look at both sides. People are focusing on the fact that there are 2 people that are gone. And they want to blame one single individual. It's not that situation, because you have to look at the whole picture, right? The whole picture. Where was this outcry 12, 13 years ago? Right? Let's talk about this for a minute. Let's get this out here real quick. Back in 2012, 2013, during Obama's term, there were 10 times more people deported than what have been already done, right? The cages that people went against through Donald Trump, those were built by Obama. You want to talk about the immigration enforcement? It has been talked about since Clinton, right? So if Clinton has done more deportations, if Obama has done more deportations, why is this one so bad? Why is there an outrage more now than before?
Trump's name on it. Trump's name.
Exactly. 9 out of 10 people will say, well, you just sound like you're supporting ICE. You sound like you're supporting Trump. Look, I'm not saying I supported their actions, but they're there to do a job, right? One person didn't comply. Look, check this out. See this? That's a speeding ticket. Okay. I got pulled over the other morning. When I got pulled over, license and registration. All right, cool. I knew what happened, right? I knew what happened. Here you go. Okay, cool. Guess what? Because it was in the school zone, I could have doubled your fine. You were cooperative. I'm not going to do that. It's just a basic one. Go take the class, call it a day. All right, cool. On my way, 10 minutes. When you talk about specifically, let's talk about Renee Good, right? Renee Good actually impeded a ICE raid, right? And she parked her vehicle and impeded their way of going across, right? They told her to pull over. They told her this, that, and the other. You can hear her wife telling her, drive, right? Unfortunately, in some certain situations, we have to understand that we need to comply and then fight the long fight, right? If there's a problem for it, right? If you're illegally pulled over, which I will say, I've been illegally pulled over, and I understand that from a race perspective, it happens very often. That doesn't mean you have to fight it right then and there, because you're going to lose every single time. Every single time. So if you go the correct route and understand, like, hey, this person's an asshole, but I'm going to beat this in court, just go to court, right? Just go to court. Now, the irony for some of the situations that are going on, because we're talking about immigration in the situation. And I feel like I need to kind of get this off my chest, which is why I want to talk about it, to present this perspective. During the Biden administration, borders were completely open, right? And it was just a free-for-all of people that wanted to come in here, including criminals. Not everybody is an actual criminal that raped or killed somebody, right? People are here to work, but they're not getting the same treatment that you and I are, which what I'm talking about are responsibility treatment. Your taxes, this, that, and the other, right? They don't get treated the same way as an average American human being is, right? And to me, that's not right. You're avoiding a lot of shit. I get why you're here. I get what you're trying to do. But is it right? Are you doing it the right way? No. I was lucky enough where I was born here, so I don't have to go through those things. But over the span of 42 years, I've had to do what a normal American has had to do. What does that make you any different? If we're supposed to be equal, you want equality, then you should have equal responsibilities. It just doesn't come from treatment. It comes from the responsibility side too. So now we have people that are emotionally driven based upon this term, this administration, the process of the immigration. And what I've been trying to say is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So you got to consider, if the most amount of illegal individuals came through 2020 through 2024, guess what is going to happen? You're going to have the worst set of deportations. The worst coming in, you're going to have the worst going out, the worst processes, the processes themselves. So there requires this type of a situation, not to mention, at the beginning when this was going on, there was the opportunity that was given to everybody. If you're illegal and you can self-deport yourself, not only will we book your flight and pay for it, but you can come right back the correct way. If you ask me, that was the way to do it. Okay, nobody wanted to do it. So guess what? Now we have to take certain actions. Now you can't necessarily say at this point, like, and this is what I have a problem with, is that people blame this administration. You're blaming an individual, right? When there were 5 people in the situation with Alex Preddy. There were 4 people outside of Renee Good that was involved with her situation. Those individuals have independent ways of thinking. They reacted themselves. You can blame the administration. You can blame Trump if he called them and just said, hey, kill her, kill him, either one. But that did not happen. So how can you blame somebody else? How can you blame Zay, right, for me failing in a trade? You can't. So that's why I say, like, a lot of this stuff is driven by emotion, and there's a lack of understanding for a lot of this stuff. Now, I hold the requirement of accountability to the utmost, because I take accountability for everything I do and I say. I have no problem doing that, because nobody else is going to fix it but me. Okay, so in that case, why can't I hold anybody else to that same accountability?
Valid.
Right?
Very valid. Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I'm for or against either one of them. I understand a change needs to happen. And I do see that there's an unfortunate situation, 2 unfortunate situations that have happened. But at the same time, I can't sit here and just point my finger and say it's all your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault. No, because when you point one finger, you got three coming back at you. And those three coming back at you tell me you're not fully educated on the situation. Like I said, if you look at what's going on right now and ask yourself, all these states that have this going on, why is there one city in one state that's the focus? Right? Because it's emotionally driven. It's emotionally driven.
Yep.
And all this does, like, I asked a question when we were talking about economics on Rise. And well, I gave a statement first and I asked a question regarding some certain situations. And what I said was, if it's not financially impact, it's a distraction. I should have added a little bit of a caveat to that, because some of these things can actually have impact on the long term, right? Meaning somebody might have said, hey, I like what Trump is doing, right? As far as the business side of it, I like what's going on. He's making some good changes, this, that, and the other. He's making the correct ones. And then turn around and say, I hate everything about him because these two people died, right? This is his administration. This is his ICE. This is his everything, right? So in that case, when you go to the polls, now you went from re-voting a conservative, whether he goes for the third term or not, which I still don't understand how that's going to happen. But you either vote for him or whoever's a Republican a month ago. Now it's going right back to the liberal side, which at that point can change the way bills get passed. The more you have of one side in Congress and the cabinets, the more things are going to happen their way.
Yeah.
So it does have a long-term possibility of effect. But right here, right now, the way that we trade, these are just distractions from everything else going on. Now, people say, oh, this is just a distraction from the Epstein files. No, not at all. Has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with that. Because if it was a distraction from the Epstein files, this stuff would have happened a year ago. The Epstein files have been threatened year after year after year after year. And if the Epstein files were really a threat, in my opinion, to Donald Trump specifically, it would have came out during Biden's administration.
Welcome to Independent Trading University at ITU. We're more than just an education platform. We're a community built to help you succeed. Trading can feel like a solo journey, but with ITU, you're never alone. Our team is here to support, guide, and push you toward mastery. Technical analysis support, so you can read the charts with precision. Fundamental support, so you understand market-moving news and economics. Psychology support, so you can develop the mindset of a successful trader. We provide the tools you need to thrive: weekly live education, 24/7 community support, and real-time trading setups from experienced coaches. Wherever you are, access the education and mentorship that will transform your trading. Join ITU today and trade with confidence.
Not this one.
Yep.
These are all straws. Now, I'll be the first one to say that I do not believe he's going to finish this term. I don't. I feel like he's going to end up being impeached. That's what's expected based upon Nasara Jassara, right? That whole plan is that he will not finish out these 4 years. But I'm saying these things with that understanding. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect him to be here in 2 years. But the thing is just because he's gone, guess who steps in his place? Any idea? It's J.D. Vance. Do you think J.D. Vance is going to be any less than what Donald Trump is doing? So then what are we talking about here? You're going to remove one individual for a similar person that's going to end up putting the same things into play. And not just that, but even if he doesn't get in for a third term, the next person that would end up having to run, guess who it's going to be? It's going to be J.D. Vance. And if he wins, guess what? You're going to have 4 to 8 more years of what's happened right now. So what are we talking about? Right? What are we talking about? That's why I say, like, it's a finger pointing situation right now. That's the distraction part, right? That's the distraction part. But now you see just for me explaining these different things, right? Now you can see how lack of emotion can allow me to see differently on these charts, because I'm not going to sit there and sell this because of this person or sell this because this riot happened. I just look at these people and I'm like, you have no idea what's going on. No idea. No idea. Now I'll tell you why this is going on. 100%. And that's due to realignment, right? The realignment of electoral votes. Every president that gets in has to win an electoral vote, total of the electoral votes, right? So when this happens and it determines what state is worth what, that's based on the census. It's not based on citizens. It's based on actual number of people, which is completely inaccurate. Completely inaccurate. But if, let's say, you let 10 million illegal individuals in here and they all go to these sanctuary cities, which we didn't have 13 years ago. We didn't have those. These are safe asylum cities for illegal individuals while they're going through their process, right? And they're protected beyond belief. So Minnesota is a huge sanctuary city, right? So by having this happen and trying to get ICE out of Minnesota, the population stays the same. How many illegals are probably there? A lot. A lot. Right? So when the census happens and people say, yep, I live here. Yep, I live here. Yep, I live here. Let's say it increases by 10% from what it used to be, right? That amount of people can shift the amount of seats or amount of electoral votes. The amount of electoral votes that state is valued at. Okay, so everybody gets 2 senators and they get, I think it's like 5 House of Representative individuals, something like that, up to, right? There's a certain amount of seats. The total seats don't change. The total seats do not change, but they shift where it's like, okay, these are going to end up being Democratic seats. These are going to end up being Republican. The more liberals that you have, or the more states that are represented, the more that side increases. And right now there was a shift prior to 2020. There was a shift where a lot of these states, right, were red at one point. Arizona was one of them. Arizona shifted to blue. Why do you think Arizona shifted to blue? It's been red ever since day one, since 1912.
Yeah. Right.
But it took over 100. It took 100 years to go to blue. Why?
What was the influence? What's changed there in the last few years?
Everybody that moved from California.
They did come that way. They've been working their way west. That's right. That's right.
Exactly. California is turning to a shit show. The values of our homes were fairly low. So they sold their homes and their properties, which were fairly high because it's California. They took that profit and they bought homes here, which is the closest state that's actually worth coming to, right? So because now we have an increase of people, our census increased, and they're bringing their ideology and political support of liberal Democrats, guess what? We're now blue. And that's why we're considered a swing state. But we also still had enough to where I think we might have had like a couple of electoral votes. I think ours increased by like 3 electoral votes, 3 or 4 electoral votes. California still stayed at the 55. It wasn't as much of an impact for them to lose, but for us to gain. But somebody else lost in that sense because we gained electoral votes. Somebody else lost, right? So now what are you sitting here talking about? You're sitting here talking about these blue cities, blue states, holding on to these illegal individuals that, guess what, come next election could sway a whole different situation. That's why I say it's based on the realignment. Protect what you can up here Because if these guys aren't here to take anybody out, your population has grown. Not to mention, there's billions of dollars in fraud. What's ever happening with that, right? We can't get those individuals out to stop it from happening because we know that the governor, which is Tim Walz, he knows what's going on. He's not stupid. It's been exposed. And when you know what's going on and you allow it to happen, that tells me you got your hand in the cookie jar, right? So why would he want it to change? Which is funny because he's the one that was calling for the outrage of everything to happen. Riot, fight back, this, that, and the other, right? And now he's calling for peace. Why? Because 2 people died? You caused that, bro. You're the accountable one. You riled your people up from the emotion, right? Now from the humanity side, you mentioned Laken Riley. You mentioned the girl that was on the train that got stabbed, right? Where was the liberal support for that when those individuals that did those things were illegal individuals, right? Those were illegal individuals that committed those crimes. In fact, when Alex Preddy was killed, the ICE was going in to actually take a child predator out of a business, and the business locked their doors. So then at that point, I have to question what those morals are. Like, you can't have it one way and then not the other, right? People want the Epstein, people want Trump to take responsibility for the Epstein stuff, right? Even though his name wasn't through the flight logs. In fact, the emails, that's what was exposed, was a lot of the emails. And you'll see where Bill Gates was named, and he was talking about, like, there were emails to Epstein himself that he had in his draft log that were about Bill Gates and the nasty things he's done. But when you see the stuff that's about Donald Trump, he never calls him his friend. He never does this. He never does that, right? So, and he's not on the flight logs. But people want to take responsibility because they feel like he's a pedophile, right? Okay, well, you got a pedophile here. You want him to take responsibility for that, but you don't want to allow somebody in there to go that is a child predator that's not from here. You want them to be able to stay there. That's contradiction to me. That's hypocritical.
It's emotional influence.
Right. Exactly. Emotional influence. And a lot of people will say, well, nobody is illegal on stolen land. I don't know if you've heard that one. That's been thrown around left and right now, right? Look, when you go back to those days, that's what happened. The thing is there's a government in place. There wasn't anything back then that had any sort of order. So someone came here and said, hey, and it was Christopher Columbus. Hey, here we go. I am taking over all of this land, whether you like it or not. It happens.
It's hard for people to even use that properly because it's like you got to think of the difference in mindset based on what is happening at each of those times. In that time, we're in the time where everybody's conquering some piece of land to start to build and develop their organization, starting to develop their governments and rules that they're going to abide by to set up the entire land so that we can have neighborhoods and a working, thriving community, environment, economy, right? Somebody's gonna come in and set that up. So if you at that time or Native American or Christopher Columbus and his crew coming in, yeah, whoever win this takes over. Whoever win this about to set the standard of how things about to go for the next 100, 200, 300 years. So unfortunately, that battle was lost. So guess what? These are the rules you got to abide by. You know what I mean?
And guess what? What would happen if China decided to say, "Hey, America, I'm going to war with you guys because of the fact that, you know, I want to take over the American land."
Right.
I want to have if Emperor Xi turns around and says, "I want to take over America," just in general, right? And he succeeds, what do I have to do but to chalk that up to an L that we weren't prepared?
Right. And now you either going to lay down and die or you about to play the game.
Right. And then if I don't want to be under that regime, then guess what? I have the opportunity to stay and deal with it, or I can up and leave and do whatever.
Yeah.
Relocate. That's the freedom that we have. Like, The other thing is like we sit here and we misconstrue a lot of the Constitution, and a lot of people throwing out the First Amendment for these protests. Yes, you can protest all day. Freedom of speech is one thing, but it's not freedom of consequence. It's not freedom of consequence. If there's a job going on and you decide you want to impede that with your vehicle, you're going to FAFO. Sorry. You're doing something that is, if you want to, because what would be a peaceful protest in that sense is pull up to the side of the road, get out of your car and start protesting, right? Don't stand in the middle of the street, stand on the side, protest, say what you're going to say. These guys are still going to do whatever they're going to do, but at least you can say you protested. Using your vehicle is not a way to protest. And that's what ended up happening. Whether the guy got hit or not, in that split second, he may have feared for his life. People would be like, oh, no, he didn't. No, he just wanted to kill. You don't know that. You're not in that half second that you have to make that certain decision. If you are that close to a vehicle and you had, I mean, it could have been a trigger happy individual. That's why I say it was on that person's mentality. You can't sit here and get mad at me because I'm trying to make a point. You can't sit here and get mad at this man because of the fact that this is his group of people, right? These people all have their choice to do whatever they're going to do and react the way they're going to act. Now, what happens to these individuals is a different story. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't, in all honesty, I don't know how I would react one way or the other because I don't know if they're going to be held accountable. If it was an unlawful situation, then yes, they should be held 100% accountable, right? If anybody saw the second release of the video that happened from Alex Preddy, right? You have people claiming that it was AI, but you have people actually, you had a system, the BBC actually did a facial recognition and said this matches Alex Preddy 98%. It's like 97 point something percent. And what did he do? He yelled profanity, screamed, stood in the middle of the street, kicked the vehicle, broke the taillight. They got out, threw him on the ground, but he was never arrested. So my point to that when I'm having this conversation within my home is you were lucky that that's all that happened. What the hell made you come out a second time? Knowing what just happened to this lady and you're still alive, why would you even do that? Just stop, bro. Stop, because you're being emotionally driven about these things. And the guy that they went after when you had been shot, that store owner closed in a child predator. You and like at that, what are you protesting, bro? What are you protesting? But the thing is back in 2012 and 2013, all these cities, they all worked with ICE. ICE has been around since Bill Clinton. It's not anything that was created overnight. You know what I mean? But this whole time, everybody has worked with them. It's up until now that they're not. And now it's a problem. Yeah. Which, again, turns in and says, why is this a problem only now and not then?
Well, I understand, man. I mean, we understand. The Democrats are in an uproar right now, right? They're in a losing side of a battle. And this helps in favor of creating some disturbance for Trump, you know, in trying to sway things, right, from an economic and public point of view.
Right.
So it's just really important you guys just not getting emotionally involved, keeping your head on straight on what's really happening and not getting wound up, because that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping to wind you up, get you going, and keep you distracted from what is really, really going on out here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, 100%. And that's what I'm saying. For me, like now you kind of get that expectation of what I look at when I see the news. I see the vision that they're trying to tell. I try to decipher it. I'm looking from both sides of the standpoint and asking myself certain questions. And if it doesn't add up for what they're trying to tell me, then guess what? I'm thinking the other way. And none of it adds up. That's why I say the Epstein files were just a distraction as well. They had nothing to do with, I will say this, the Epstein files may have contributed to some of the crypto drop. But that's it. That's it. And that's because there's a lot of stuff that came out regarding crypto in some of these emails because Epstein was a financial guru, right? He saw things ahead of time. Bitcoin had been around that whole time, right? So until we could tell you committed suicide in 2019 in jail, which I don't throw that up in there, however you look at it, whatever. Regardless, these emails, that's what a lot of these emails were based on, were financial advice and financial things here and there, right? So that's why the most important thing that you have to look at is the flight log. But even the flight log doesn't even give you everything, because let's put it in perspective. How long has Zoom been around? Zoom's been around since what, 2018, 2017, right? I mean, that's when I knew about it, because we were hosting calls on here left and right. I'd never heard of Zoom beforehand. And then it got big during the pandemic, right? Because everybody was at home. Some of these emails were from prior to 2017, 2018, right? Where, hey, let's have a business meeting, especially if you're going to, let's be honest as well. Not everything is cool, calm, collected. Not everything is accurate. Not everything is the best way of going about things. So if you want to have a conversation that may allude to illegal activity in some way, shape, or form, you're going to want to have it in person, right? So any loopholes, right? The fact that the flight log literally could just be, hey, let's have a business meeting, let's have a conversation about this. You can't determine that from the flight log. You can't. It's literally just a flight here and there. Now, were there little girls and little boys there? That I don't know. That I can't say. But I also have to understand that when it comes to the letter of the law, it's all about what can be proven. It can be what proven. Like, I may have my feelings towards it. Like, I feel that, yes, the flight logs have a lot of impact of who was doing what. But I'm not 100% in on that, because there is a small factor that says, who's to say that there wasn't just a business meeting? Now, flying back and forth like Bill Clinton did 20, 30, 40 times, that's a problem. That's a problem. You know what I mean? So then you kind of go into whole different things there. But I digress on a lot of this stuff here. You guys see now, in a way, how fundamentals have, in a way, affected me, right? You guys heard literally, like, from a perspective based on zero emotion. Because if I was emotional, I would be in uproar saying, inconvenient things. I would be calling names, this, that, and the other. I've been trying to be as positive as possible, right? Because there is two sides to every single story. You know what I mean? But do I sound like I'm heartless? To some, I may. To some, I may, right? And I accept that. I can't make everybody happy. But if I'm saying something that gets you thinking, then hey, I've done my job. I just want you to think for yourself rather than, I've always said this on any news thing, any news conversation. I want you to think for yourself. Determine how is this going to be financially impactful, and what am I going to apply my knowledge of technicals to this? Like, if I'm going to wrap this whole thing up here based upon fundamentals and news, we started off with how metals moved. Okay, well, what actually happened? Okay, well, it reached new highs. There's new margins that came into play. People sold off and closed out a lot of their trades, took their profit, called it a day. And then you've got other things that are going on with the dollar dropping, the economy itself, etc. And then a lot of these distractions. Iron it all out, throw it out on the table, and put the puzzle together. It's not a hard thing to do. It just takes time. It takes time, right? But I don't necessarily see how I don't see how the Epstein files are going to affect the dollar. I don't see how they're going to affect indices. I don't see how they're going to affect metals. I don't see how immigration is going to affect any of these things, because majority of these people aren't doing anything anyway, except for probably, that could also be a factor, thinking of it right here, right now. You just, light bulb over my head right here, right now, because crypto is easily accessible. That might be another reason. People selling off their crypto because they need the money right now for whatever reason. They don't know where their next SNAP benefits are going to come from or whatever it may be. So they need that extra bread. Like, you can think of endless different reasons as to why people need the money or to do the sell off, outside of the fact that they're selling off to take profit to invest in something else.
Do we look at them the
There
same way
are,
we look at metals in the sense of, hey, I invested in crypto for the sake of making profit to get to the point of 100,000, take my money, now I can put it where we're seeing the same people that are taking their money out of metals and putting it back
yeah.
into the economy.
Mhm. And then metals are just going to turn around and go right back up. Now, because margins have changed, we might have seen the biggest bull run that we will see for a long time. That doesn't mean
This
it's not
quickly.
bullish. Right,
Yeah.
this quickly. That's what I mean. Like, this was the get rich quick, and it took 2 months.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, with that being said, it's like, okay, you can make a lot of money. It's still not going to be overnight. You're never going to make $1 million overnight unless you win the lottery.
Yeah.
Right? But are we going to see some changes into how people make money and how the profit comes in? Yeah, because now margins are different. It's more expensive to trade. Sorry, but that bull run just did that. I don't have control of that. I just can have control of how I can actually apply this. I can do it more educationally. And if I can do that and I can provide it to you guys, then hey, why not? Keep it in your mind. If you weren't aware of it, now you are. That's the whole goal of this whole thing, right? So if anybody, I would open this because I'm always open to conversation for it. If anybody wants to comment or reach out to me directly, I would say go ahead and do so. But if you're going to do it educationally and not with emotion. Because people might turn around and be like, oh, he's a racist. Oh, this, that, and the other. No, I've been called a racist, and that term has been thrown around loosely for the past X amount of years. It's crazy out here. Everything, if you don't see somebody's view, then you're a racist, which is fucking stupid to me, if you ask me. But those that know me know, hands down, I'm the least racist person in this world. I just hold people accountable for what they do and how they act and how they react, right? If you act out of line, I don't care whether you're black, white, brown, purple, green, or red. You're going to need to accept whatever consequences come in your way. So, I don't know. It is what it is. I don't want to get off too much of a tangent here because I could be talking about this all day.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But we're gonna take this last few moments out. I want to open the floor. I do have a question from a viewer, and I also have a question. I'm gonna leave that open for if Jackson has any questions as well, since he's here with us live. But this question is: someone has heard about the JPY carry trade force that has been happening, and they wanted to know, how does the unwinding of that JPY carry trade force liquidation in assets like gold and silver, when traders who borrow yen at a cheap need to cover positions?
I mean, that's a very, very interesting question. I mean, because we do know that the yen moves along with gold, right?
Most traders already know what to do. That is not the problem. The problem is execution. Knowing the plan does not matter if you cannot follow it. Understanding the market does not matter if emotion makes the decisions. ITU Rise exposed the habits, beliefs, and patterns holding traders back. ITU Execute is where those patterns are replaced with standards. This is not motivation. This is not another strategy. This is professional execution training. At ITU Execute, traders build non-negotiable rules, structured routines, and decision frameworks designed to hold up under pressure. No shortcuts, no hype, just disciplined operation. If you are still searching for the next indicator, this is not for you. But if you are ready to operate like a professional, this is the next step. You already rose. Now it is time to execute. ITU Execute, Q1 performance. Right.
It's even though gold is the safe haven currency, I'm actually going to pull up JPY here real quick. I want to look at the JXY because we saw gold drop and we see a huge pullback on the bullish move for JPY. But as I'm looking at it, it's literally just creating what is in position for me as a lower high. And, people want to, sell off their JPY. People want to sell off their yen to apply to gold. by all means, I would say go ahead and do it, because gold, regardless, gold's still going to be bullish. But I do see the yen still dying. I do. Like, I don't see it, and I don't see a stop for this, because we've hit at one point, we hit the lowest of the low at all, period, for JPY, and it still hasn't gone to really go bullish, because that currency is almost a dead currency. Like, it's crazy. But that just means you can buy more, at a lower price at some point. So, when you're sitting here talking about the correlations or anything like that when it comes to the yen, yeah, I would say whatever you can do, grab as much, gold or even silver as possible, especially if it's going based on the yen. I mean, I don't see an end in sight for any of these guys. This is kind of what we're in right now. All I see right now is that with the DXY dropping, I do see yen still dropping, but that's the only one. I do see euro going up. I do see GBP itself possibly going up, although your currency pairs are a little bit different. If you're trading GA, then that moves with the DXY, which we'll get into correlations here real quickly. People want to stay on and pay attention. I'll go through some pretty good ones here for your trading experience.
For sure.
But as far as the yen and gold, I think that's a great question. I think that's a great position.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, it's just so the Japanese reverse carry trade, this occurs when investors unwind positions by selling their foreign assets and converting proceeds to yen and repaying some of those loans. This is triggered by rising value, with the Bank of rising rates, with the Bank of Japan, or strengthening of the yen, right? So that's kind of what happens there. And then as we're seeing currently, right, with gold and silver, with that sell-off, they're ready to reinvest, like we talked about earlier, into the market.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And hopefully, the Japanese government does so now that it's becoming a little more affordable. So if we're going to see any form of like a bull run on JPY to make it actually stronger, it probably would have started happening already. I'm looking at literally the monthly right now. And I don't know, we might see a slight bull run. Maybe up to 71.81. Retest that again. I mean, it's retested it multiple times, even with wicks. But yeah, it's still, I still see JPY being weak as well. So we got some time before that's actually going to take effect and see the results, because there's still room to move on the bearish side specifically.
For sure. All right, Jackson, while you're here, man, do you have any questions before we close off with the few correlation points that Mike wants to make?
Nah, I ain't got no questions, man. I cleared up a lot.
Awesome. All right. So, Mike, what do you have for us for correlations? What traders can use right now, and being able to really take advantage of these moves that we're about to see on gold and silver coming in?
Okay, so this is just a quick refresher, specifically mainly for Jackson or any ITU individuals, anybody that's watching this that hasn't been around me or have heard these correlations as to why or anything like that. This is specifically for you as new people to listen, that maybe you can apply to your trades. So first things first, look at DXY in the sense of a supply and demand. The way it comes down, higher supply, then the higher demand means the lower supply, right? I've said that just maybe 30, 45 minutes ago. So when you can see that, the more it comes down, the more you can buy, because as the dollar gets weaker, the more supply there is, you can apply it into different things, which is why as the dollar comes down, you're going to see euro going up, you're going to see GBP going up, but you're going to see certain pairs actually move a little bit differently, right? So when you're talking about just the index itself of EXY, BXY, AXY, which is the Australian dollar, right? Correlate these things and apply it to your trade when you're looking at actual pairs, right? So for example, GA, we would all expect GA being bullish for the most part because of the fact that it is one of those currencies that will benefit from any movement of the US dollar. But if you look at GA compared to DXY, they're moving bearish together. Why? That is specifically based on AUD, right? So the strongest across the board correlation that is opposite is USD, which is DXY, and AUD, right? And AXY. So whenever USD goes up, AUD goes down every single time, right? You can back test this as much as you want. It's reversal, and it's, to me, I would actually be strong enough to say it's at least a 90, like a 95 to 100% opposite reaction, right? So mainly during New York sessions, you're going to see, as the dollar drops, you're going to see USD drop, or the GA drop immensely. So if GBP is getting stronger, you'll probably see those bullish pullbacks for a sell entry during New York during Euro session, right? So when we're sitting here like, okay, when do I want to look for an entry? You would buy it during Euro session, during London session, and then you would sell it during USD, during New York session, right? So anything that is XXXAUD should work against, or should work with the US dollar, because the correlation with AUD is so strong. It's not like gold, where gold can move with it or whatever it may be. Like I said, AUD is one that you can always put in your bag and say, okay, if I know where DXY is going, I'm just going to trade AUD pairs. The only problem is when you're trading AUD pairs, there's not a lot of volatility outside of, let's say, GA, right? AUD, I always think of like this when I'm thinking of the amount of people in the trading realm, right? The most commonly traded pair is what? Euro USD, right? Euro USD across the board. So when I'm like, okay, why does this move slower than GU, right? Okay, so GU's got a lot of people in it, but not as much. So I think of it like this, and I've given this example. This is a weird way to think, but it paints the picture perfectly. I'm in Grand Central Station. I'm walking in the front door, and I have a train to catch, right? The more people that are in there that are going to obscure me from getting to my end result goal of getting to my train is going to cause me to move slower, because I have to move through a lot more people, right? Less volatility. The other thing is, more volatility is when you have less people in, and I can go boom, right from point A to point B, right? I don't know why I thought of it like this, but it's just, it's the crowd formation, right? Euro USD is overly crowded. Now, mind you, as far as that goes, that's one of the other stronger correlations that says if USD is going down, Euro USD is going up. That's that XXX USD will go opposite of USD itself. So AU, EU, GU, those should all move similar to each other. But you're going to see some that are going to move more than others, or at least more volatile. And that's mainly due to the value of the, like if you're trading off of lot sizes and pips rather than contracts, it's the pip value too. GBP is valued higher than Euro, right? So you might see GU reach a TP quicker than Euro USD. Why? It was easier to get from point A to point B, like my example said. I could get from the front door to my train a lot quicker. But GBP is valued higher than AUD. So AUD doesn't have a lot of people necessarily in it, and you would think I can get from A to point B a lot quicker than even GU, but at the same time, there's not a lot of people in AU. It's not as valuable, right? So it kind of gets pushed off to the side, where it's just like a smaller type version. God, I don't know how to explain it, but I would say at that point, you're not sitting in what would be considered as like Grand Central Station. You'd be sitting in like a smaller type version of a train station, if that makes sense, right? You're not in the big boy, but you're still on the same structure to get from point A to point B. right? So, you know, when I'm sitting here thinking of this and I'm like, okay, cool. How am I going to make this where I can picture it and understand a little more? That's where it comes into play. But when you're talking about, like I said, Euro USD, overly crowded, it's going to take longer to get to its TP than GU. AU still might be a little slower because it's not as big of a product or as valuable as GU. But I will tell you right now, if you have the patience to sit through it, you will hit whatever price you're looking for as long as you know where DXY is going. That's like where the patience comes into play. And it's like, okay, I need to make this bread. Well, like your most guaranteed way of making bread is going to be probably off of AU because that correlation is so strong, but you're not going to get the return on value that you would on GU, right? When you're seeing volatility, you're talking about ups and downs, not just one way. So as AU continues to make a bull move when DXY is coming down, you're going to see through different sessions, GU go up, down, up, down, up, down, and still reach its point quicker than EU, right? So there are certain volatility portions that actually take into play as well. But it's all about what's more of like, nothing is guaranteed, but more of a stronger result of what you're looking for in the successful route is to trade certain things like UCHEF. Zay and I were talking about UCHEF the other day. It moves exactly with the DXY for the most part, right? With it. Why? Because it's USD CHF. Now, why doesn't UCAD do that, right? There's not a lot of people in UCHEF, so it can follow DXY more than what you think. The economy for Canada is a little bit different than what it is for the Swiss franc, right? So at that point, you're going to see UCHEF move a little bit differently. UJ, talking about JPY here a second ago, UJ moves fairly well with DXY because it's USD JPY. USD is the stronger currency. It is the primary currency. And as JPY falls, as long as they're both falling, DXY still should be stronger. So you should still be able to buy USD JPY as JPY falls when they're going the same way. In this case, you probably would be. In fact, you know what? It's kind of perfect, the situation right now, because DXY has been on a pullback, right? On a pullback on the way up, along with what else? JPY. JPY had a small little pullback, right? So right now, we're seeing actually a little bit of a bull move, and it looks like it's on. I mean, that's the monthly.
You can share
the hour here. I can share my screen?
Most definitely.
All right. And if you want to, if anybody that's watching this wants to test out what I'm saying, I will show you this right now. This is what you do. Okay. Look, this, I can tell you right now, looks exactly familiar to me. Why? Because we had this massive drop, and now we have this pullback on the way up. Kind of like what? DXY, right? So go up here, hit the plus sign, type in DXY, pull it up. How ironic. And a lot of that is because the U.S. economy is stronger than CHF, regardless of what we're seeing for each currency coming up or down itself. USD still the USA still has a stronger economy than Switzerland, than Japan, along with Canada. So look at Canada real quick. Oh, look at UCHEF. Oh, it's no coincidence. It's no coincidence. So there are a lot that will turn around, and like I said, as long as you know where DXY is going, DXY will tell you everything you need to know, right? So if we're looking at DXY and we're seeing Canada kind of being a little bit weak here, but we're seeing JPY, you come to JXY, right? I'm going to do this here just in a little bit of a process. Look, opposite. That's funny. There's a double bottom for DXY to start coming up, but yet this already pulled back, came up. This is why we're seeing, because USD is still a stronger economy than JPY, we're seeing this pull back just like DXY.
Most traders believe their problem is their strategy. They think the next setup, the next indicator, the next system will fix everything. But the truth is, most traders don't fail because they lack knowledge. They fail because they can't execute under pressure. The market doesn't expose your strategy. It exposes you. Every hesitation, every impulse, every time you override your plan. That's not a technical issue. That's the trader within. Your identity under pressure decides your results. At Independent Trading University, we don't just teach charts. We train the trader who shows up when it matters. Where discipline replaces emotion, structure replaces impulse, execution replaces hope. This is the trader within. If you're ready to stop fighting yourself and start executing like a professional, this is where it begins.
Hey everybody, Steve Hartfield here. I'm a current ITU student, but been with them for about a year and a half now, and we just came out of our ITU Rise event. And just wanted to kind of give a quick review on how Coach Daniel has helped me kind of get some more clarity with the whole system that I do with my trading and my mindset that I go into. So when Daniel came and talked to us about how to create boundaries, how to change your identity and how you see yourself when it comes to money, and we talk about the real idea of what patience is. And, these are the key components that helped me kind of find out who I was as a trader and kind of give me some more clarity on what I'm really involved in and not really chase the money, really chase the technique and the process that you're going through. So then you can figure out, when the money gets larger, it's not an intimidation thing. You know how to control your mind, you know how to control your body, how to create a workflow through your sessions and your trading sessions throughout the week. So, I'd like to thank Daniel for what he's done for us and ITU Rise and the students from them. I think this was a big breakthrough for me personally, and I hope that, we can be able to see him again and so we can make a bigger breakthrough for, more students to share. Thank you.
Hi guys, Leroy from ITU here, ITU Rise event. So I'm here doing a review for Coach Daniel, and it's based about the mindset, the coaching that he did during those days where we had the morning sessions. The way he does things is that when you have certain things that you want to know about yourself, or you have certain problems, in that mindset area, he'll take his time to break down and ask you a lot of questions. So he's not that he really takes time. So you see that he does his job with passion and with love. It's like you really need to listen to him because he knows his stuff from the top to the bottom down. Listen to him, make notes, and you won't be disappointed. If you're still struggling and having problems, you can ask him anything and he will break down things for he brings clarity to you with what you're struggling with, and he comes with solutions, and then it's for you to take what you want to do with it if you want to do it. But if you take this guy and took him, if you have other problems related, if it's even not trading wise, he will advise you. He does his job with passion and with love, and it's his man, Daniel, 100% man. Love it. Keep on doing your thing, and thanks for those days that we had in the Rise event, and I hope that all the other students that come, that they will be blessed with mindset sessions and the clarity you bring with the whole package included when they, everything you do. Love up. Thank you, man.
What's up, y'all? My name is DeAndre Jackson. I'm a student of Independent Trading University. I've been for a while now. At the beginning of my journey with ITU, I was definitely egotistical, prideful, operated with a lot of traumas, created this vicious boom and bust cycle for myself where I was just surviving instead of thriving the way that I should have been. I also had the privilege of attending the ITU Rise event that just ended a few days ago, and my favorite part was speaking with Coach Daniel about mindset. He actually helped me to kickstart the process of eliminating the results-driven belief system that I had to separate the man from the outcome. At the end of the day, I am a man with a purpose and a gift to give to this earth. My results and outcomes only speak about my processes and my habits. He also helped me to keep a bird's eye view. to understand that also what he was teaching me in regards to the event itself not only applied for trading, but to every aspect of my life as a husband, father, son, friend, trader, and any other avenue in which I may pursue. This isn't a one and done thing. Every month, every year is going to call for a new version of me. I definitely look forward to having Coach Daniel on this walk with me on this journey of my life. If you are here watching this video and you are thinking about it, you have nothing to lose. In the end, you will leave with the momentum needed to continue to grow forward and to the person that you need to be. Have a blessed day.
You know what I'm saying? When you start understanding it, it can be applied like you wouldn't believe. You know what I'm saying? You'll know, you can know. We don't go based upon a clock. We go based upon price. And when you're talking about technicals, but that doesn't mean you can't use a clock, because if you use a clock and you know that it's AUD time frame right now, why not look for a pullback that might continue during London session, right? And that might be a decent sized move where then you turn around and work with DXY during NY. You can do that. You know what I mean? So I would tell everybody, even with the dollar going down, right, as far as correlation goes, that's a good reason as to why indices had gone up. You got to think from the psychology side. This is what I wanted to explain from the psychology side. When you look at the DXY and you're talking about the supply and demand rather than weak or strong, the higher the supply, the more that you can actually feed into different investments, the psychology behind it. People don't have necessarily the worry because they have a little bit of extra here and there, right? When it's high in demand, that's less money in your pocket to invest with. So as we see DXY go up, understanding that's a rising demand, you could actually start selling off some of your stocks or start trading sells on on US 30, because of the fact that people are going to stop investing, or they're going to sell off their stocks to invest it into something else. See the bearish move. The only times that they will move together for the most part are when news details affect both rates, NFP, stuff like that, right? Consumer sentiment, wage increases or decreases, unemployment, that can affect both. But those are all temporary. Those are all temporary. And that's what kind of told me that overall, when I was looking for the sell on US 30 from the rates weren't going to necessarily change, or if they were, it was going to be minimal. But they moved the same together because, like, for the most part, because of the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy. That actually helps the US dollar go down and US 30 go down. Correlation with that. But those are temporary. Again, those are temporary. You don't want to sit there and try and hold long-term trades for that, because that's just a news topic. Granted, if anybody did hold and you understood where the structure came into play, you would have caught an 800-point move just from a message that I put in Discord the day before.
Literally.
So
It was that or why I even got some of it. Because once it was like, yo, it's only a partial shutdown, I was like, oh, well, this ain't going to be that big of a deal. So.
Right. And the partial shutdown is also in effect. That can affect because there's less government spending going on, although they're still funding like SNAP benefits, this, that, and the other. But when a partial shutdown happens, a lot of these guys that are in office aren't being paid during that time unless you're an essential worker. You know what I mean? So they need to come to an agreement fast. But what are the topics that need to be agreed upon? That's another thing. You know, when you're talking about news topics, government shutdowns, government spending, right? Debt ceiling increases, which I won't say decreases, because no president has ever decreased the debt ceiling, which is ridiculous, because that's why we're in this place that we're in right now, because we've never limited government spending like we have right now.
Yeah. These are important considerations, man. Very, very. So, with that being said, I hope this has been informative. honestly, for everybody. This is
It
very,
was a
very
lot.
important. Dude, we jam packed it today. We jam packed it, which is great, because I love getting into it, to the depths of it, to the levels that are actually going to be, you can utilize, right? This is all about application. That's what ITU at the end of the day is all about. Is how can we take the information and put it into an application and get benefits and put our family in the right position that we want to be in and really push that financial threshold, in one of the fastest vehicles you can really do it in, right? So is really an appreciation for Mike's times, appreciation for you guys that show up to show that you take this information seriously, because we're not doing this for nothing, right? This is to help traders get in a better position, help new traders come in at intermediate, cross certain levels to where they get into advanced, get consistent in their techniques, and understanding how economic plays such a big role. And for those of you that showed up here today for some information on what just happened with gold and silver, this is going to make that difference for you. This is going to help you set up to make this probably the wealthiest year of your life if you do it right. If you take your time, follow the structure that's happening, pay attention to these macroeconomic things that are happening, and the information that Mike is giving y'all, man. I there's not too many places giving this kind of game the way we are giving it, and to you at this capacity that you could take advantage of it. So you got to jump on it now. Don't waste any time. Apply what you're learning. Mike, thank you so much for your time and being able to show up for people in this way. It means a lot, not just to me, but I'm sure to everyone out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got all my DMs open, so if anybody is, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, I don't care. My DMs are open for anybody that's not part of ITU, but anybody that is part of ITU, you just got to tag me in Discord. I did at some point. I will say that with what I have going on, there are times there might be a delayed response. I feel bad because I left Steve on red one time and I felt terrible for it. So I got to get with him on something regarding gold as well, because he had some questions and I meant to take a look at it, but I got really slammed with what I had going on here. So my apologies, but I get to as many as I can. I like staying active in it. I love talking about these things because the more we talk about it, the more not only do we understand each other, but we can learn from each other too. Like the whole topic that we literally just talked about with the news distractions and whatnot. I think that those are valuable because I'm not trying to tell somebody how to be. But like I said, if I get you thinking, you might actually learn something about yourself. You know what I'm saying? And if you can learn something about yourself that you didn't know beforehand, or at least recognize something and say, you know what? Like for me, at one point I said, I don't want to be emotional about things. I'm tired of having to worry. I'd rather just accept what's going on and act accordingly, right? So I chose to change my emotions. I grew in that standpoint. So now my emotions, I'm not saying I'm a damn robot, right? I'm not a robot with no emotions. I do have emotions. I get mad. I get upset. I get hurt. These things and other. But it does not stop what I'm doing. Just because I may feel bad for something or somebody, that doesn't mean that I'm going to take that and apply it to my trading in that sense. I'm going to apply what I see and what I understand, no matter what, with the understanding that I do feel bad for what happens, right? Or I'm ecstatic about something that happens. Those are all emotions. It doesn't always have to be bad. It could be good emotions, right? Yeah. I could be glad that interest rates are coming down and I could be super happy, right? But I might have a different feeling when it's like, this is the last time because we don't know what's going to happen, right? Then I start thinking, okay, I might not worry, but I'm going to look and see what's going to cause things to change the economy and just apply it that way. When you can do that, you can learn to invest at the right times. You can learn to get in, get out. You can learn to help. The biggest thing that I was ever able to, and I've said this multiple times, I knew when I needed to sell my house at the tip top. And I sold my house and made a ton of money. But if I'd have waited any longer, I would have lost out. If I'd have sold it sooner, I wouldn't have made as much, right? I applied that to my everyday life. And now I can sit back and say, okay, looking at the VIX, this is going to change. Stocks are going to change. I can see the housing market actually has a chart on here. I just got to find it. And I would bet right now that the housing market is in such a divergence, it's not even funny. So, once you can kind of put all those together, it makes things a little easier, but just understand that it does come with a lot of change within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Working
And
on
with
yourself.
with that, I step back.
Yeah, man. The working on yourself part is a non-negotiable. And you guys will find out early when you get into ITU that you've got to work on yourself, on your mind. You've got to do the self-development. You've got to do the self-growth, or you won't make it from Jump Street. I don't care how many technical analysis you know. I don't care how many charts you know. I don't care how much of the economy you know. If you can't control yourself, I promise you guys, you're going to struggle as a trader. So, with that being said, Mike, thanks again for your time, brother. If you guys are new here, okay, comment below, like, subscribe. You guys know all the YouTube world actions that we take on a regular basis. That helps us, like, one, connect with more people, connect with more traders out there that need our help, need this kind of information. So please like, share, comment, subscribe, and take part in this journey, man. Each of you are on your own trading journeys, but you don't got to do it alone. And that's what ITU is all about, is being able to support you throughout your own individual journeys. You have to trade for yourself, but not by yourself. So let's make this an amazing year. You already got the game on what's happening with silver and gold. We will be taking heavy advantage of that. If you aren't already watching or taking part of, we got the $100 ITU challenge going on right now. We only on day 2, and we've been moving some numbers from and a couple of us been pushing hard. But again, we're just trying to ground out and be ready for the next phase of the month, where we can kind of take our time and take some real strategic and solid trading opportunities. But dude, man, gold and silver, you just can't, we couldn't miss, man. It's been early on and already in motion, and great opportunities presented. So we're always going to take advantage of that. And for the rest of you guys, man, enjoy. I hope you have a great trading month ahead of you. And if you don't know already, Daniel has his ITU Traders Within event coming up at the end of the month. If you find out, man, there's some still mindset tweaks I got to make, you don't want to miss out on that chance and opportunity to actually sit down, get a game plan together around the entire mindset issue you have, and then go into March running again, right? So each month, we're going to take the opportunity to make sure we can get done what we need to get done, get through that 30-day period, and build that consistency we want all year long. Okay. So other than that, man, appreciate you guys' time. We do have ITU chart session here shortly, so I'm going to be signing off. Jackson, thanks for coming through. Mike, thanks for showing up and doing your thing, and I will holler at y'all later.
Sounds good.
Later, man.